What's going on, y'all? It's Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B here at HederaCon, and we're joined today by
Ed Marquez, Head of Developer Relations for Hedera at Hashgraph.
Amazing. Ed, it's been a packed day and the energy has been hot. This is my first time at a Hedera event, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. Tell me a little bit about your day and your reaction to HederaCon 25.
My reaction right off the bat, it's been awesome. It's been an incredible day. I'm so proud of the team that pulled this off in such a short time. And the fact that we're doing this for the first time since 2018 is just such a refresher to be in front of the community, feel this energy, be energized about the vision and the mission that Lehman and Mans have started, and to see how much that has grown. And so today has been a tremendous day of information, of connections, of interactions, and just reinvigorating to keep building with this technology and also on the Hedera ecosystem.
Totally. You said that the last one of these events was in 2018, right? When did you join the larger Hedera ecosystem?
I was a participant maybe around 2019, 2020, and then I started playing in my free time with SDKs, kind of getting involved in that developer community.
Nice.
And I made the official jump in 2021. So I joined right at the peak of the market, and then probably around September timeframe is when I joined. In November, everything was crashing again. And so, I made a few questions about my life decisions at that point, but I'm so glad that I've stayed with this market, because all that bear time was the time to build, to onboard new developers, and to build better experiences. And now, I think we're in a different type of market where there's a lot of optimism for Web3, for crypto in the US, and for Hedera. And so I'm very glad to be part of this ecosystem for the past 4 years or so.
Big time. So you said you are head of developer relations, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I ask because I've done a lot of interviews here today, and I got a lot of little comments around, this is my first time at this kind of event. I've had great relationships with the larger Hedera community, but it's so cool getting to step into the real world with this whole active community. The excitement was there, the optimism was there, and it's clear that from 2018, the last time they threw this event, to today, the fire that is motivating the development of the larger Hashgraph community is definitely ablaze, And so I want to get your reactions to, as head of developer relations and head of that community, what kind of interactions did you have with the development community today that surprised you, right? Things that kind of gave you more optimism and maybe even broadened your horizons beyond where you even thought conversations and relationships might go today.
I love that question. I would say that was probably some of the most valuable set of interactions that I had today. I met people from the retail perspective, from the institutional perspective, but speaking with developers that are looking to build and contribute to the ecosystem was tremendously valuable for my function and, for the relationships that I've developed throughout my time here in this ecosystem. And so specifically, one of the conversations that got me very energized was around developer tooling. How can we involve the community in that process of creating better tools, better solutions for devs, so they can create those incredible solutions for that retail ecosystem, right? Because to make the Hedera ecosystem successful, we have to move at least two parts. You need the users and the retail, but you also need the developers that are going to be building the platforms and applications for retail to use, right? And so I think the foundation is now doing a phenomenal job driving that retail acquisition and that retail user adoption. But then we've always been having those conversations with devs who need that user base to, have sustainable business models and successful businesses on the network. And so seeing the big picture, seeing it all come together through these conversations piece by piece has been incredible.
Totally.
Throughout the day.
And one of the little nuggets that pops into my head from the interviews I did today was someone mentioning how, when they chose to start developing on Hedera's Hashgraph the first time, this was several years ago, that, compared to other chains, it was maybe a little harder to develop on Hashgraph, but they made that step forward because they knew that the long-term benefits of developing on Hashgraph, the decentralized governance, the community around it, was worth it. And now he says, over the last year, they've been working with developers even more. And I feel like it's so much easier now to develop on Hashgraph, and things just keep getting better and better. So I'm curious about that back and forth. It's clear that y'all tap into the sentiments of your developers and use that to help guide the development ecosystem, the resources, and how you actually build on the Hashgraph. How do you stay in tune with the needs of your development community? What are some of your strategies for, keeping that pulse and interacting with them proactively?
That is a very difficult challenge, but something that has to be done, right? Because that is a goldmine of information once you're able to establish and open those channels of information from your community. And so we're typically monitoring, public channels, Discord, X. We're also having one-on-one conversations with teams like developer advocacy and developer relations, also getting feedback from projects that are integrating new tools and new infrastructure. And so it is a wealth of information that comes our way, and then we have to also pass that on to the right teams so that that feedback gets acted upon and so that we can improve the network gradually. And so I would say it's more of a situation of keeping our ears open, keeping our minds open, and also being empathetic about the situations that these developers are on, right? If they run into a bottleneck or if they need some sort of new feature, just having that openness to listen to their feedback and to have the right connections in the ecosystem to make those things happen for those developers. So it's just monitoring a lot of different channels and being open to have a lot of one-on-one conversations and group conversations as well.
Totally. And monitoring all those channels means that you get to see the wealth of use cases now that are being built on Hedera's Hashgraph. It's cool seeing everything from, kind of more fun and experimental retail and consumer side projects to working with financial institutions to help transition TradFi to DeFi foundations. I mean, it's really cool seeing the wealth of different use cases. I'm curious, which use cases you think are putting a lot of energy behind the future of the Hashgraph at large, right? Which ones are kind of motivating a lot of that back and forth conversation between yourselves and developers, and that you think have a lot of potential for setting new standards for what's possible on the Hedera Hashgraph?
I see a lot of possibilities, and we can get into a few different use cases. I'm going to highlight some of the ones that probably have seen the most attention and adoption. And one of those is going to be karate combat for sure, right? Because that is a very low entry barrier use case that retail loves. People are using crypto without necessarily knowing that they're using crypto and Hedera Network.
Right.
And so that is great, because that's how we onboard millions and billions of users into Web3. And so Karate Combat has done a phenomenal job in their application and also in the platform and sports platform that they've built on Hedera throughout the years.
Right.
I would say another use case that is more on the institutional and infrastructure side is also what Hyundai and Kia have done with Hedera for tracking their emissions, right, on the network. And so that is one of those things that you don't really think about, but it's one of those use case for infrastructure that we need to get to a more sustainable set of business models in supply chain and in the automotive world, right? And so and just to reiterate, that's how we win, right? When people don't know that we're using crypto, but we are as an underlying technology.
Exactly. Yeah, those use cases that really validate the enterprise deployments. When you have a car manufacturer like that relying on Hedera's Hashgraph to be the foundation for tracking, something as critical as emissions, that's something that is great to have in the back pocket to then whip out and say, look at the kind of enterprise deployments we have and how we've matured as an ecosystem.
Let me add another one too. And I just remember because I saw an incredible presentation, and that was Neuron World. And so these guys are building a foundation for DeepIn and AI using also blockchain technology. So having this decentralized network of infrastructure, sensors that can provide better information for the drone industry, and so that opens a lot of possibilities and use cases in the future where perhaps we can have automated air traffic control for drones, right? And the UK is already implementing this in production with a few airports. And so that is another use case that I absolutely love, right? Decentralizing that infrastructure layer and using blockchain as the trust layer for that decentralization process.
Right. And for fully maximizing the potential of autonomous operations and AI systems and intelligent machine networks like drones. That brings me to my next question, which is this intersection of AI and blockchain. to big cutting edge technology sectors. And here at HederaCon 25, it was a point of conversation, big time. What does it actually mean that AI is intersecting with the blockchain, and where does AI as a more practical tool set for different enterprise use cases, where does that put some pressure on the Hashgraph and on blockchains to start to deliver, right, around these use cases? So I'm curious where you see that intersection put more opportunities on the plate for Hedera to prove that, AI is only as strong as a good blockchain foundation underneath it, right?
I see a lot of potential for these two technologies to come together, perhaps in a two-way relationship, right? Cool. Because you can have blockchain use cases for AI development, and you can have AI to help blockchain development, right? So I see a very beautiful synergy and connection of these two, I would say complementary and supplementary technologies, right? And so in terms of what it means, I would say it means opportunity for AI builders and AI developers, and opportunity for blockchain builders and developers, right? And so if we break that down into what are the use cases where you can have blockchain for AI development, I think you can have better governance of data, better traceability of data, and also traceability of that AI model development process. So that's a case where blockchain technology is a fundamental building block for those AI development workflows, right? And so now you have perhaps ways to have more transparent attribution and compensation for human authors, from the work that AI models are using for their training and their inference, for instance, is one possible use case. Another one is AI governance can benefit from the learnings that we've had in with DAOs in blockchain. So, because imagine seeing another situation like what happened at OpenAI a few months ago, where you had terrible governance decisions that led into this drama that the whole world got to see, right? But now if you were to have decentralized autonomous organizations as a mechanism for governance in AI, which is a very fundamental and transformative technology, I think that would be a benefit for the whole of society. And if we flip that picture, right, you can use AI to improve the development of blockchain applications, but also blockchain protocols, because now you can have intelligent systems that perhaps can accelerate the process of doing formal verification in that coding of new platforms that decentralize the trust aspect of it. So again, just to summarize, a lot of opportunity. I think in terms of where it puts pressure, more than pressure, I see, again, opening doors for us to tackle healthy pressure, for us to tackle new use cases, bring new solutions that are based on market demands and that solve real market problems.
Right. I love that. Now, last but not least, if you could just riff for me a little bit on any other major trends around multi-chain and interoperability that you think were important from today's sessions, because that came up a lot. It was a major topic of conversation. And, from what I can tell, this idea of chain interoperability is very important for some of these enterprise use cases you were talking about, because most of the big players, when they're talking about leveraging blockchain technology, they're not super concerned about any one chain per se. Rather, they want a strong foundation that will take them more confidently to market with a product that speaks to their client base and customer base. So tell me a little bit about where you see these trends manifesting and some conversations that were important today around interoperability.
Again, a big area of opportunity for ledgers. Two key topics come to mind. One is DREC, decentralized recovery, which is a protocol where we heard from Lehman and Charles from Cardano. I'll get into that. And the other area is something that is going to be enabled by this underlying change that we're driving called block streams and block nodes. And so what that will enable is state proofs on Hedera, and it's ways to cryptographically prove that the latest state of the network is actually true, and then you can share that with other ledgers and other networks. And so that's something that is going to be connected to all of the developments that are going to be happening on Hedera over the next 6 to 12 months, with spheres, block streams, block nodes, and then those state proofs that are going to enable that secure interledger communication. Now, coming back to the point of DREC, I also think this is going to be a fascinating point and a fascinating opportunity. You heard Leemon, say that the origin of this solution is the fact that there's no backup in crypto if you lose your keys. Every other realm has a backup, right? If you get locked out of the house, you have a locksmith. If you get locked out of your bank account, you have a backup.
Right.
But with crypto, you lose your keys, you lose your value, right? And so that is scary to people who are looking at the industry and trying to enter. It's like, there's no safety net.
Right.
And so what if we found a way to cryptographically and mathematically solve that problem of keeping secrets in a decentralized way that is also easy to use, right? So I think that would be a game changer for our industry. And why does that relate to interoperability? Because it's not a Hedera thing, right? It's something that every protocol can implement. Wallets, different layer ones, and different applications, right? It's a problem that Leemon and the DREC Alliance have solved for the entire industry using cryptography, using blockchain, using math. And so I think that is a fascinating area of opportunity to see the future adoption and maturing implementation of that DREC protocol.
I love that. And it really speaks to the fact that the future of the larger, DLT industry is going to be defined by its security, its reliability, but also its ease of use and implementation. And once those things kind of all are in synergy with each other, you get these exciting big picture enterprise use cases that take blockchain technology to the next level. So it's pretty cool to hear that Hedera is not only setting standards within the industry, but setting standards for the industry. And I think it speaks to the community-centric nature of Hedera. Even though everyone's got some healthy competition, of course, it's like the Hedera ecosystem can't help but want to deliver wins for all of blockchain, for all of distributed ledger technology companies and innovators out there. So it's pretty cool to see all of this in action here today.
Absolutely. One last point that I want to make is, with protocols like DREC, with new technologies like AI, I think we're much more likely to see the end of those early days where we were maxis for a given chain, right? I think those protocols and those technologies are going to accelerate that interoperability that are just going to, make this technology work, right? And all these protocols come together. And so, like you said, there is a little bit of competition, but I think in the end, it's all going to come together to deliver better experiences, better user interfaces, and more value to society. Because again, that's how we gain adoption, by solving real life problems.
Love it, man. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for a great show, and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Hopefully not a 7-year wait this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll be back next year, hopefully. Right. All right.
Yep.
Thanks, man.